Hello, I'm Julie Williams, Registered Migration Agent with Migration Down Under, and I'm going to be talking to you today about an overview of the 457 program. Yes, the 457 program does still exist, despite the word being abolished being used back in April from the government announcements that there were major changes to the 457 program. Yes, there has been major changes and there are more to come. March 2018 is going to see a change in the name of the 457 program, but essentially the temporary or provisional work visa is still going to be out there for Australian employers to be able to employ overseas temporary residents to fill the skill shortage that we can't find Australian labour for here in Australia. So how do you go about obtaining a 457? If you're overseas and you see the temporary work visa, you think, great, it might be like the general skilled. I can do that. My occupation's on the list. I want to apply. But firstly, you actually need an employer who's willing not only to offer you a position and employ you, but also has the ability to sponsor you. So the 457 temporary work visa is actually a sponsored visa program, and it does require an employer. There's 3 steps in the process if the employer isn't already a sponsor, and that is for the employer to be approved as a temporary business sponsor. The second is the business nomination, and that's nominating the occupation. That's where there has been a lot of changes since March of 2017, since April 2017. There has been a number of changes with nominated occupations. The traditional consolidated skilled occupation list has been broken up into 2 lists. One is called the medium to short-term skilled list, and the other one is the medium to long-term skills strategic list. As we like to say in our industry, with the acronyms, we tend to call it the meatball and the schnitzel, because that's how it sounds or looks when it's an acronym. But the 2 applications, the 2 lists now dictate whether you're going to proceed to a 2-year visa or a 4-year visa. The 2-year visa is only for occupations on the short-term skilled list, and unfortunately that's no more going to be transition into permanent residency without, like it traditionally is now with the 457. Whereas the medium to long-term skilled shortage list does still give you a 4-year visa and a possible pathway to permanent residency. So just remember, the 457 is a temporary visa, and it's no longer guaranteed that you'll automatically be eligible for permanent residency after a certain period of time. That's for new candidates. I'm not talking about those that are already 457 holders. Those new ones, if your occupation is on the short-term list, then you're only going to get a 2-year visa with a possibility of renewing for a further 2 years, but no guarantee, dependent on your circumstances, that you will obtain permanent residency. Whereas the medium long-term list, it's more occupations that are currently in demand, so therefore it's offering a 4-year. Now, at the moment, people on a 4-year 457, after 2 years of employment with the same employer on a 457, are eligible to transition into permanent residency through the support of their employer. But come March next year, they're looking at 457 holders to have to wait 3 years instead of 2. We're not quite sure whether that's going to affect those 457 holders that held visas prior to the announcements in April. That's yet to be determined. But just be aware of that for any new applicant looking at obtaining a temporary 457. Processing of these have been quite delayed because of the changes. You can expect at least about 4 months, sometimes probably about 3 to 4 months, and depending on your occupation, it can be longer. The trick is to have a complete decision-ready application at time of lodgement, because if you are requested for further information, then it will go back to be reallocated And that's where we don't know how long that's going to take. And we've heard of some cases from other applicants that have lodged their own that it has been taking about 6 months or more. And businesses can't afford to wait that time. So processing is quite lengthy. Just going back to the nominated occupations as well, a lot of the occupations, whilst they're still on the list, have what's called caveats next to them. And that's additional criteria that needs to be met for those particular occupations. For example, some of the popular ones like recruitment consultant now has to have a minimum 65,000 base salary being offered. They also need to show that the employer has $1 million turnover and employs a minimum of 5 employees. Cooks and restaurant managers are another caveated occupation, whereby they can no longer be working in what's referred to as limited restaurants or limited cafes. Now, the definition of limited is casual dining where the food is pre-prepared and doesn't require really a qualified cook, where the restaurant or cafe may be located in a shopping centre or shopping mall. That's no longer considered to be eligible to sponsor somebody for a cook or restaurant manager. So there's been quite a few changes in regards to additional criteria set for some of the more popular occupations. Now, we've spoken about the sponsorship, and then we've spoken about the second stage, the nomination. The third stage is actually the visa application, where you as the visa applicant get to lodge your visa. You can do it simultaneously with the lodgement of the nomination, or if you prefer, you can wait until the nomination's approved before you lodge a visa. And once again, the visa will be granted for either 2 or 4 years, depending on your occupation and which list your occupation is currently on. These lists I refer to are now being updated every 6 months. This list is due to be updated again in December of 2017. So be aware there could be some changes. There could be occupations that are currently on there removed, and there could be other occupations be prone to caveats. Once you are lucky enough to obtain that temporary 457 visa, you have 90 days within which you must arrive in Australia, or if you're already here in Australia, commence with your new employer, I should say. You must work in the occupation that has been specified in your application, and you must be paid the minimum salary that has been stated in your application. You as an employee, what are your obligations once on a 457? You can't work for anyone else except for your sponsored employer. So if you do wish to change jobs, then you will need to have a nomination approval for another employer before you move across. It's illegal to work for anybody else other than your sponsoring employer. The other obligation is to maintain health insurance. You must maintain health insurance if you haven't got reciprocal rights to Medicare. So be aware that if you do let that lapse, you can risk having your visa cancelled. As far as dependents, if you've got family that you wish to include on the 457 through the support of your employer, you can. Your partner will have full work rights, so they won't have restricted work rights like yourself. They can work freely with whomever they wish in whatever occupation they wish to. And obviously children can be included in your application as well. So that's it in a nutshell for the 457. Watch this space because there are going to be more changes. It's continually evolving, and there will be a number of big changes in March 2018. But essentially the program will still continue. It will just be renamed and have a few more criteria that needs to be met. So if you do want some more information or are interested to hear more about the 457, don't hesitate in getting in touch with us. You can do so via email, info@migrationdownunder.com, or if you're in Australia, give us a call, 02 9419 5411. We look forward to hearing from you.